Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Juliana, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you about a novel called Carmilla. Carmilla is from the author Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. If it's not the right way to pronounce it, please let me know in the comments so I can correct myself, but I think you can understand. So Carmilla is a novel previous to Dracula and is a short novel. It has like 100 and something pages, so it's really fast to read. You can read this novel in one day, like in 2 to 3 hours. I think that was the time that I took for reading this novel. And we find here a story narrated by Laura, that is our main character. She is a girl with, I think, some surrounding 15 years old to 16 years old, and she has an English father, so they live in a castle, and her mother died when she was still a baby, so days after she was born. They live in this castle with their servants. So we have Madame Perboudon, so she is the governess and she can speak French and a little bit English. Then we have Mademoiselle de La Fontaine, so she is the teacher of Laura and she can speak French and German. So this book is from 1872, horror fiction, terror fiction, and so on. And just for curiosity, Dracula is from 1897. Yeah, just for curiosity, I have already read Dracula, but I have to say that I prefer the movie. So if you never saw, I think it's from 1992, the movie. Let me see. Yes, it's from 1992. It's from the director Francis Coppola. I love this movie. It's one of my favorites, and I love, how is he called? Gary Oldman. He does Dracula. Oh my god, it's magnificent. It's great. But well, this video is not about Dracula, it's about Carmilla. So let's talk about Carmilla. As I was saying, Laura lives with her father. They live in a castle with the governess and the teacher and other servants. And one day they are in the gardens and they are walking through a road to come back to the castle, and a carriage passes through and it has an accident and it's upside down and a woman comes out of it. They bring out as well a young girl that is like she's fainted. The father of Laura goes there to help them, and the woman, it's like a middle-aged woman. She's really pale, and while the father of Laura is there taking care of the girl, the mother of the girl calls the father of Laura to speak to him in some kind of private talk. So they separate a bit from the other people. And when the father returns, the carriage is already fixed up, and the mother enters in the carriage and continues voyage, leaving the young girl with them. So because the father, we understand, accepted that the girl stayed with them because she was ill, and the mother continues her voyage because she was on a mission to do something that we never find out what it was. And she asks if, well, the father proposes to the woman that the girl stays with them because she was complaining that she had to go, she was in a hurry, and so on and so forth. And the father proposes that, and at first she says that she can't accept, but then she accepts, and then she has a private talk with him. That's how it is. And then back to the castle, they prepare a room for the girl that we find out that it's called Carmilla. And the father says to Laura that the mother said that Carmilla wouldn't say anything about who they were, what they were doing there, where did the mother go, and she asks that they didn't ask anything to Carmilla. The father agrees, right? And Carmilla goes to her room, and then we have Laura. Oh, a detail. So we begin the story with Laura presenting us who she is, where she lives, with who she lives, and then she tells us a story of when she was young, of a nightmare that she had recurrently, that she saw a woman in a room, and the woman would enter in her bed. No, it wasn't recurrent. No, I'm sorry, it was one night that it happened. So a woman would be in a room and will come to her bed, and she would wake up screaming, and then the doctor was called, and she was really pale, and Laura describes to us that before the dream she wouldn't have fear, but after the dream she became a little bit more fearful. That dream never happened again. And so fast forward, when Carmilla is in a house, they become friends. So, and Laura is really excited because she was trying to have a friend, and because she lives alone with her father, and she was trying to become friends with someone, so she has there an opportunity. And so she tries to get information from Carmilla, but she doesn't say anything about her life and who her mother is or anything. And the father then receives a letter from a friend saying that because they wanted him to visit them, but he's informing the father of Laura that his niece died, and he's describing a really strange scenario surrounding the death of his niece, like it was a monster that killed her. And Laura has the opportunity to read the letter. She becomes a little apprehensive, but well, the days pass. Some strange thing that Carmilla does is that she says that she doesn't want anyone to be in her room, and she locks the door every night because she says that when she was in her house they were robbed, and after that she became fearful, and so that's why every day after that she locks her door to her room. And so she does that in the castle. And another strange thing that Carmilla does is that she doesn't wake up before noon, so she doesn't want to be woken up before that, so she just comes down to the living room late afternoon, and they go on walks on the garden, and the girls become to form a friendship. And one day a salesman knocks to the castle door, and he tries to sell amulets, like charms. So he says that at night the ghosts will go away and nothing will bother them. And so Laura is having trouble sleeping. So and she they both buy an amulet each one, and one night Laura becomes to see like an animal in her room, a black animal, and then she feels like a bite in her neck, and she wakes up, and then she sees nothing, I think, and she puts the covers on top of her head, and she tries to sleep, but she never can. She's never able to sleep. And then in the other day, the father is worried about her because she's so pale and she seems so fragile. And they call the doctor, and she examines her. She becomes like to be suspicious about something because she's weak, she feels frail, and he asks her if she through the night felt something, and she says that she felt a bite in her neck, and he asks to see her neck, and they see two little dots in her neck, like blue dots. And then the doctor does a strange thing. So he writes down what he thinks that is happening in a paper and says to the father to read the paper after he's gone and do as he says in the paper. And so the father reads the paper, and he sees there that the doctor thinks that this is a work of a vampire, because we become to understand that in the neighborhood some young girls are dying in strange circumstances, and the people are saying that this is the work of vampires. So the stories were already surrounding the neighborhood. And now I don't remember if the father received a letter of that same friend. The name of the friend is Roland Spilsdorf. So I don't remember if the father receives another letter, but I think he does. I think he receives another letter from his friend who the niece died. And I think that the friend is explaining what he did to kill the monster, because he says that the doctor, that he found out two blue dots in the neck of his niece, and they were suspicious of vampires as well. And he says that he hid himself in the closet in his niece's room, and he was waiting with an axe, I think it was, and then he saw someone entering the niece's room, and he comes out of the closet and tries to kill the beast. And I think the father of Laura does the same thing. So I don't have sure what happens first. And he waits in the closet. Oh, but before that, something strange happens. So Carmilla is locked in her room. So Laura senses that Carmilla is missing. So she goes to Carmilla's room and knocks in the door, and no one answers. And she tries to open, but the door is locked. And they scream for her, because Laura had a nightmare. I think that's how it was. And she screams, and Madame Perrodon comes to her room, and then she tries to go to Carmilla's room, but she's not there. So Laura orders the servants to knock down the door of Carmilla, and when they enter the door, no one is in the room. And so they then go wake up the father of Laura, and they try to find out where Carmilla is. They look downstairs, they go to the garden, and she is nowhere to be found. And then Laura comes up and goes to Carmilla's room, and she's there. She appears there. And they attribute that to somnambulism. And so that's how they explain the situation that happened. Because that night, when Laura had a nightmare, she saw Carmilla in a room with blood on her clothes. And so that's why she screams. And you know, Laura, since the day that Carmilla entered the castle, Laura has been having nightmares, recurrent nightmares, and some of them are with Carmilla. And Laura, when she sees Carmilla for the first time, she recognizes her face from the woman that was in her nightmare when she was really young. So the first talk that they have is about that. And Carmilla says that she as well had a dream where she saw Laura's face in her room. So the girls, just from the start, have that connection. And the father had some pictures that he ordered to restore, and they are one day in the living room, and the father is going through the paintings to see if they are well restored, and they come across a picture or a painting of a countess that was an ancestral of the family of the mother of Laura. Laura becomes aware that that woman is really similar to Carmilla, and they joke about it, but Laura doesn't see anything more from it, and they brush it off. And then some days pass, some months pass, because so Carmilla was supposed to stay there for 3 months, because it was the time that her mother told the father of Laura that she would take to come back. And so the months are going through, and then we arrive to a point where the father of Laura and Laura are going in a trip to the house, the ancestral house of the mother of Laura. And so they go first in I think surrounding noon, and the father says that Mademoiselle de La Fontaine and Carmilla go in the afternoon, so when Carmilla wakes up. And there we see Roland Spilsdorf coming through, because Roland had so the father of Laura had received a letter from Roland saying that he wanted to visit them, and so in that trip they found each other, and Roland accompanies the father of Laura and Laura to the house of the ancestrals of the mother of Laura. And there we have Roland telling the story of what happened to his niece. And then he says that something was after Bertha. I think the name of his niece was Bertha. Was after Bertha because they were in a party and they were masquerade. Well, Roland and Bertha were not, but I think it was a ball, a masquerade ball, and some woman and a young girl comes to their site, and the woman becomes to talk to him about how she knows him and if he was doing well, and she remembers seeing him in such and such place, and through that conversation Roland doesn't remember her. He doesn't know who she is, and he tries to find out who she really is because she has a mask on, and he asks her to take the mask off so he can see her face and see if he recognizes her. But she says she doesn't want to because, well, she says it's something that a man can't ask a woman, something like that. And he finds that really odd, and someone comes to their site and says something to the woman. And so meanwhile the young girl is talking to Bertha and they are really friendly, and the woman suddenly has to go away, and she asks Roland to take her daughter in his house for a little while because she has to do a trip, something came up. Do you think that have some similarities with Laura's story, right? And she has to go, and please stay with her. And in first he's like a little apprehensive, but then he accepts because he sees how Bertha is happy with that companion. And so the lady goes away, and they stay with how is she called? Manila? I don't remember. It's something like that, really similar to Carmilla. Well, then we see a connection between the family or the ancestors of the family of the mother of Laura with the woman that Roland met. And the thing that he says is that they welcomed that girl, and some strange things became to happen. So Bertha will become really fragile and really weak, really ill, and they couldn't find out what it was until a doctor said that it perhaps was a vampire. And then the uncle wanted to kill the vampire, but he never could. And then he kind of became suspicious of the young girl they were welcoming in their house. And now, after Bertha's death, he is on a mission to kill the last vampire that exists. Because the people surrounding that neighborhood are stories that people have killed vampires, but for one way or another, one vampire would survive every time. And so I think I'm going to stay here. You'll have to read the rest to know what happens. What will be of Laura? Will she survive? Will she not? What is really happening with Laura? So I'm going to stay here. I have to say that it was fun reading it, but I think it was missing something, like more, I don't know, more, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like I was hoping the story would have more involvement, like more intrigues, or not intrigues, but more development in a way. And it felt short. I think that's the description that I'm looking for. It felt short. But you know, it was a fast reading. It's really predictable, I have to say, of course. But you know, still is an entertaining story. And I love vampire stories. I'm really fascinated by it. And yeah, it was fun, I have to say. And it is a really, you will be able to read this in a few hours, so it won't take much of your time. You know, you want to know what happens, so although it is predictable, you still want to know what happens, so that's good. And yeah, it is a simple, quick, short story, so always fun. So yeah, if you have read this, please let me know in the comments what you have thought. And still, if you have read Dracula as well, please let me know which one of these was your favorite. Did you enjoy this story? And let me know other vampire stories that you know. I really love to read them, maybe for next Halloween, next year. So yeah. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed already. Leave a like, it helps a lot at the divulgation of the video and the divulgation of the channel. Follow me on Instagram, I'll be posting there whenever I have a book review to do or anything else. And yeah, that's it. I hope you have enjoyed it and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!